See how that works?
Over the course of the first 5 games, how would you, describe kind of your run game's performance, the dynamic between Jam and Justice, kind of the balance of the run game versus the pass game? How would you?
Well, I mean, it's every week's different.
Yeah.
Obviously we go into a game plan with enough as far as in the run game and the pass game to figure out, what we need to do to keep teams off balance. But every game's different. Obviously, we've been trying to do a really good job as a staff to, get a run game that fits our quarterback, and obviously he's dynamic with the ball in his hand. So, you just look at the efficiency of it. The times we're in third and short situation, fourth and short, goal line situation. So, obviously, in the run game and pass game, we want to be better. So I think it's just every week dynamic that we have to, as a staff, try to figure out how we can get better, and then our players also watch film and figure out how we can get better also.
When you think of, the use of an all-around, an all-encompassing running back in this offense.
Explain it to me. You tell me what that is.
An all-encompassing, one that can block, one that can, catch passes in the backfield, one that can run between the tackles, over the tackles, things like that. I mean, how important is that for just the creation of the dynamic offense that you guys want?
Very important. And I think we got guys that can do that, and I think you hit those things on the head. I mean, I think you answered your own question. I think a lot of times you guys ask questions that you know the answers to, but you just want to hear me say them. But I think you said all the things those guys have to possess, and I think they do. And I think we'll constantly try to find ways to get those guys the ball.
Coach, when you lose a game, what's the level of focus that comes back in?
No different. Someone asked a couple weeks ago, how do we prepare for Georgia? You don't. I mean, there's not a level that you do one more than the other when you lose. I think that's a sign of a weak person. I think that's a sign of a weak individual. I don't think you're going to do your job any differently than you did it yesterday if you have a bad day, right? I mean, if you do, that means you're not committed every day to the same process. And it's still a process. So whether you win or lose, you got to always focus on, the details. So the same details we focus on when we won, we have to focus on them again. I think sometimes people want to find things that you did the same things when you won. When you lose, they want to point those things out. So I don't think that's fair. And I don't think it's fair to me as a coach to prepare any differently.
Can you harness the frustration, though, throughout? Can you use that to an advantage of kids being frustrated from the loss and kind of use that?
I mean, they're kids. You have to learn from them. I have 3 kids of my own. And I try to teach them the same way I teach my players, that you got to focus your energy to the positive. You can take it as a loss or a lesson, right? I mean, and the hard part is that sometimes you learn more through a loss than you do than a win. So hadn't done anything any differently. Harness, direct, all those words you want to use. These guys are kids, but they're also young men where they got to go to play again. And we get another opportunity on Saturday. We can't focus on the past like the fans and media can. We have to focus on what's next.
Coach Womack a few weeks ago mentioned that sometimes he likes to show the defensive players tape of pros that obviously do it at the highest level. Do you show the running back room video of pros sometimes?
We barely have enough time to do the things we have to do to show what we're installing and review the film. So, obviously, there are times in the off season where we do things like that. But, right now we just try to focus on us. And I know all those guys watch ball. I'll ask them, hey, did you guys see the Monday night game, or did you see another college team play? And they watch football. So we talk about different things, but to say I just really break down film and show them week to week, those guys I don't. Right. But I do think it's good that they get a chance to see the expectation and the standard that we as coaches envision for them, and also that they envision for themselves.
When you do something like that in the off season, who are a couple of the pros you'd put on that you'd want to put on?
Obviously I try to show those guys players that they can resonate with, and obviously we've had a long history of running backs to play here that I think it builds a connection because they feel like those guys were once in the meeting room doing the same drill. So Brian Robinson, when I want to show the bigger guys how they should run. Jameer, when I'm looking at his patience. Obviously Alvin Kamara, who didn't play here, but he started here and I coached him. I showed them a lot of his runs with contact balance and things like that. So just guys that they can feel a connection with, because there are a lot of great backs, but we've had a lot of great backs come from Alabama, so I try to show them those guys.
Sure.
Coach Sheridan mentioned Justice and Jam kind of improving, and they looked good as blockers on Saturday. How have you just kind of seen them grow in that area and maybe take some more pride when they're not running the ball?
You know what, man? Becoming the best player you can all around is what the goal is. I mean, these guys are very unselfish. They're very talented players. They understand that the ultimate goal when you come to Alabama is to win. And when you win, everybody gets the fame and the glory that comes with it. So, these guys take pride in blocking in the run game. They take pride in blocking in the pass game. They take pride in being in the proper spaces for their routes. And that's part of being selfless. And you have to be selfless because the ultimate goal is to win. So those guys have done a really good job, with the ball in their hands and without the ball in their hands. I'm proud of them.
Sort of along those same lines, I mean, are there any challenges in, when they're not getting kind of a string of carries when you have a guy like Jalen who can, use his legs as well? What are maybe some of the challenges in navigating that and keeping them, kind of fresh when they do get the ball?
You know what? That's a mental game that they have to play with themselves. And obviously during the off season, just the relationships, the understanding of the offense. Well, these guys have to be mature enough to understand that every game is different. And again, understanding that what's the goal? The first goal is to win. And what we have to do to win is the only thing that's important. So, obviously, everybody wants to point out that, hey, maybe this guy's not getting this or that guy's getting this. The ultimate goal is that we want to win the game. And now when we don't win, we got to look back at things we could have done better, as a staff and also for our players. But these guys have been ultimate professionals on how they carry themselves, and I'm proud of them.
When you've kind of looked back, I mean, obviously you guys didn't get the win, didn't get it going against Vandy. What have you noticed that maybe has been a point of emphasis this week? Obviously it changes with South Carolina. But
you know what? We spent, 24 hours. In the same 24 hours you get from a win, you got to treat it the same way with a loss. People think when you win, you spend 24 hours with it, you celebrate. But 24 hours is 24 hours. So we looked at that film. We pointed out the things that we can do better as an offense, just the small details that we've been talking about that we have to continue to correct. And we've had a good week of practice this week, but we have to make sure the small details and things that we didn't do right last week, they don't show up again, because obviously we're playing a good South Carolina team that's going to study those things, and we got to make sure we don't expose those deficiencies again.
they do have some physicality on defense, like you mentioned, South Carolina. What have you maybe noticed in terms of
They're
how
big,
they kind of bring
they're
it?
aggressive, they're long, they play together, they're an aggressive unit up front. They're probably one of the best defensive lines we faced all year. Their linebackers are thumpers, and those are all good things that you want to be able to face, because you can't test really who you are until you have a really good opponent. So they're a good team. We are past last week, just like we were past the weeks where we won. You treat both of them the same. I really believe that. Obviously, seems crazy to say, but you treat a win and a loss both the same, because it's on to the next week. And right now, we're having a good week so far, and we got to go play a really good South Carolina team.
Thanks, Coach.
You talked about you had